we're back in ArcMap, ArcGIS Desktop for the next part of the collector video. And really what we're doing now is we're preparing the data before we load it into the app to be collected. Now, the step I'm showing here is not 100% necessary. If you have data already, someone's already loaded a feature service, or you have just a shapefile, that's already kind of ready to be collected, you can load it into a map online, and some of the other ways that we talked about in a previous video about importing data. But I'm including this kind of interim step here because it gives you a little bit of greater customization into how data can be collected in one simple way, and that's with drop-down menus. So by doing this step right here, you can bring drop-down menus in, which maybe doesn't sound too appealing, but if you think about having to collect data from 10 to 15 different people, and we're all moving pretty quickly, it's much easier if the word residential is going to be the only choice or one of the only choices someone has, rather than giving them the ability to misspell residential about 10 times. So in order to get the best bang for your buck when working with Collector, I think whatever data you have, you should always start in a geodatabase. If you're not certain how to create a geodatabase or create or import data into it, you can watch the personal YouTube channel, has some good videos on that. But once you have the data set to go, you want to make sure you've created your fields. In my instance, I've got one that's property type, which I'm going to use to create the type of property, condition ranking, where I'm going to give the buildings a ranking from 1 to 5. A text where I'm going to say something is good, medium, or bad, and then just general comments. So in order to get these so that they have drop-down menus, I have to do something that's called setting domains. And I'm going to walk through this relatively quickly, but like I said before, this can also be seen on my YouTube page for my students. There's a good tutorial on many of the things you can do with geodatabases, and one of which is drop-down menus. All right, so in order to do it, the first thing you need to do is actually right-click your geodatabase, go to Properties, and under Domains, you can almost think of this as like you're setting essentially parameters or constraints by what values are allowed to be in things. And just so I can remember what I'm going to do, I'm going to be setting 3 domains right here, one for a type of property, one for a ranking, and one for a condition. And so maybe I'll come in, and the first one will be, I'll call it property type, and this will be the type of property. You always type your domain in here first, and then you pick the kind. Well, this domain is going to take text-based values, right? And whenever it says text-based values, it tells you, okay, the domain type is coded values. Use that visual perception we have as humans and say, oh, look at that, coded values is right down here. I must probably be putting some coded values down here. And really, that's what you do. Let's keep it simple. We'll do a residential, a commercial, institutional, and vacant. All right, so we've got one. So I'm going to create another one, which is condition ranking, and ranking of building condition. And this one I want it to be like kind of a number system. And I don't want anybody to be able to put anything lower than 1 or higher than 5. And there you go, right? So I've created one that's an integer, and it's a 1 or 5. It has to be short. And then the final one is, building condition. And this is the actual description of building condition. Another text, and I'm just going to have it be, good, moderate. Obviously, you could have many more if you decided to do this. And I'll hit apply. All right, so essentially, I've created the parameters in the geodatabase, but what I haven't yet done is link those parameters to these specific fields. And you do that here by going to the actual feature, which is the collector example here. That's the shapefile, or rather not the shapefile in this instance, the feature, that's the polygon. And I find the fields I want to collect. Well, I know property type. If I click on it, I see I have the option here to set a domain, and lo and behold, there are the text-based domains. One would be property type. I go to condition ranking, I find my domain, there I go, condition ranking. I go to condition text, I have domain, there we go, it's the building condition. And by hitting apply, I'll just give you kind of a peek. What I've done here, if I started editing this in ArcGIS, I would see that I can only pick certain values, residential, commercial, industrial, institutional. If I try to type something else, it wouldn't work. Right? If I tried to give a condition ranking of 10, that's interesting, that shouldn't have worked. Maybe it'll eventually say null. Yeah, I guess that one didn't work as much, but shouldn't be able to type anything between 1 and 10, so I'll have to check on that. But as you see here, good, moderate, poor, I can pick any of those things. And this is going to be great when we are working through ArcGIS Online through the actual collector. So I've prepared my data right, as much as I can. I've got the things set up right here. I've got my ranking, my property type, and again, I'll do a quick check as to why that was 10, should only have been able to get up to 5. But now what I have to do is get this online. And so we'll do it through a skill that you learned in another video, which would be for feature service. Right, so whenever you're publishing a feature service, which is just the best way to get data online, you have to sign in. And once you've signed in, then you can share as a feature service, as we've done previously. So I'm publishing a new one. It's going right here. I'm going to call it Collector Video Example. It'll just have this data. All right, I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. You know, as you can catch all this in the feature service tutorial. Share that with everyone at U3 Advisors, and I'll publish it. It's going to do its thing, create its service definition, and I'll pick this video back up when we are on ArcGIS Online. Back again for the next part of the collector video. So last video we prepped some data in ArcMap so that we could get the drop-down capabilities. Again, like I said, not necessary. You could have just come right to this step if you didn't care for that. But essentially, what I'm going to do now is I need to create a map. And then that map will link to this data that I just uploaded, this feature service, collector video example. And then that map is what I'm going to link to my phone so that when I'm loading data, apologies, when I'm collecting data on the spot, it uploads automatically back here, and I can utilize it on our ArcGIS portal, or I can then, you know, download it back to ArcGIS Desktop. You know, that's something often you might do. Let's say you're going to a couple commercial corridors and you need to collect information on lighting, building condition, you know, tenant, type of material, so on and so forth. You can load it into your phone, go out and collect that data, and then right when you go home or even before you go home, somebody working at their computer can download it and take it back into Arc or any of our other applications. Right, so as I've showed you in other videos, you're going to add something to a map. You absolutely want to make sure that you have full editing control, because the whole purpose of this is we're going to edit these on the fly. All right, so there it is. It's in here. Oops, even before I do that, I'm actually going to go back. One thing I wanted to do. Before you even do that, actually, you want to go to the items details. And the reason you do that is something that's not going to be on automatically. And that's the collector right here, the enable attachments. Very small thing, but real important. If I choose to enable these, what I'll do is I can actually now, when I'm collecting information on the parcels, I can take a photograph of them or a video, and it'll be linked to that parcel on our database, and I can download it for later use, or I can make a map that references it in the pop-up window, so on and so forth. So you got to make sure you're doing that. All right, so they're definitely enabled. I'm going to go to back to my map. Usually loads the last thing you had, so very good, still there, blah, blah, blah. All right, so symbolize it or color it up any way you want right here, because however you have it symbolized here is how it's going to show up in your collector, right? So right now I've got a super simple, a super simple kind of symbology that's just, each parcel. Let's make it a little more transparent. There we go. Where each parcel is just kind of a transparent shade, and then I can click on it, when I grab my data. But if you had like a land use layer, or you wanted to maybe color it up by ownership so it's easy to see, you could do that. You can also mess with the pop-up. Remember, there's definitely other videos that show you how to do this. So, I'm going to go through it really, really quick here. Right, the other videos will show you a little bit better how to do what I'm going through right now pretty quickly. All right, so we create a little pop-up window there. Oops. Didn't realize it is easier to do than that craziness that I just did. I'm still thinking I'm in ArcGIS Online here. There we go. And then I'm in desktop. Right, there we go. 1950 South 11th Street. I don't really feel like changing why it thinks that needs to be a thing, but I'm going to real quick. Da-da-da. Street number, house number. Do not use the 1000 separator there. There we go. 102 McKean Street, blah, blah, blah. All right, so I've got everything good. I need to make sure that I'm saving this map. I'll save it as collector map example for video. And another best practice, you should have been invited to join a group. There's other videos will explain a little bit more about groups. But you want to make sure anytime we create one of these that we share it in our collector maps group. This way anybody, who essentially is in collectors can be able to see this. All right, so I upload that. And I will pick up the next video when we actually have it now ready for our web-based sharing.